Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Before we start presentation, please let me introduce our group member. First, Putri Noviyanti. The number is 1003. Second, Aprilia Purbo Rini. The number is 1025. And the last, Maluni Meila. The number is 1029. We are from Group 10, Class U14 Economic Education, Yogyakarta State University.
Journal Identification. The title of journal is Reducing Poverty Among Children, Evidence from State Policy Simulation. And the writers are Jessica Paka, Irwin Garfinkelp, Neeraj Kaushab, Jaehyun Nam, Laura Nolan, Jane Wolf Vogel, Christopher Wimmerf, and it published on August 2020. Abstract stage approach to reducing child poverty that would occur if all states adopted the most generous or inclusive state policies by doing simulate using 4K policies. First, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or SNAP. Second, Earned Income Tax Credit or ATC. Third, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families or TANV. And fourth, Child Tax Credit or CTC. After simulate 4K policies, we find that ATC have the largest impact on reducing child poverty, followed by SNAP, TANV, and lastly CTC. Children face the highest risk of living in poverty compared to working age and elderly adults. Poor children are less healthy and experience worse health and diminished earning, productivity, and overall well-being throughout adulthood compared to non-poor children. Child poverty rates vary from 8.01% in Minnesota to 20.2% in DC. This is from the Census Bureau and Bureau of Labor Statistics Supplemental Poverty Measure. This variation is due to differentiation in demography, cost of living, and state and local economies. States have played a large role in anti-poverty programs, then should take responsibility to decrease child poverty by doing begin with establishing the Aid to Dependent Children or IDC during the Great Depression and renamed as Aid to Families with Dependent Children. This program initially focused on poor widowed mothers and their children, and large, including those where the families which the father was unemployed. During presidential election, William Clinton proposed AFDC program will reform and expanding AETC program. President Clinton's first budget agreement with the Congress is the expansion of the AETC, increasing benefit dramatically for families with children. Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act replaced AFDC to TANV. TANV provides state with a fixed block grant allowing saving or extra costs to accrue to the states. Then, the Child Tax Credit or CTC is intended to reduce the tax burden of families with children. CTC extends benefit to middle and upper middle income family as well. And SNAP policies, formerly known as the Food Stamp Program, provide almost $70 billion in assistance to low-income individuals and families each year. By this research, estimate reduction in poverty among children in particular because they are vulnerable group and one that would benefit greatly from improvement in state-level policy generosity. This paper illustrates the impact of divergence in state anti-poverty policy since the mid-90s and informs policymakers on the child poverty impact of more generous or inclusive policies in their states. Question: if all states offered inclusive support to children and their families seen in other states in the four largest income assistance program, what would the child poverty rate be? Research goal. The goal of this study is to know the child poverty rate by simulates the SNAP, AETC, TANV, CTC policy, then knowing the most effective policy. So after knowing the poverty level of various policies, then we can see which policies are most effective to implement by the government.
The next about research method. In this research, simulate the child poverty impact of four scenario. 1. All states provide TNF to same proportion of TNF. Eligible individual as receive the benefit in the most inclusive state in this regard. 2. All states provide SNAP to the same proportion of SNAP. Eligible individual as the most inclusive state in this regard. 3. All states have a fully refundable SNAP ITC that is as large a proportion of the federal ITC as the most generous state in this regard. And the last, all states implement a state CTC as general or inclusive as the most generous state in this regard. First method is TNF simulation. The formula for calculating TNF can be seen on the slide, where TNF dump is an indicator for whether the individual receives TNF. Child num is the number of children in the household who are not foreign-born non-citizens from Mexico or Central America. And resources to needs is the ratio of total cash income to the official poverty threshold. In order to be deemed eligibility for TNF cash assistance in the CPS under California MPSIC, only income eligibility and the percent of children in the household are counted. In the TNF simulation, those who receive benefit tend to live in SPM unit with 2 adults, 45.4%, and 3 or more children, 84.9%. Just 5.4% of individuals who receive TNF benefit in the simulation are foreign-born non-citizens from Mexico or Central America. Among those who are eligible to receive TNF in the simulation, 99.6% have resources to need that are in the bottom third of the resources to need distribution below to the poverty line. And then SNAP simulation. In the SNAP simulation, we use cash income and official poverty thresholds since this encompasses the definition that would be used to identify eligibility for possible benefit. In the SNAP simulation, the majority of individuals who are allocated benefit are in SPM unit with 2 adults, 65.3%, and 3 or more children, 57.1%. 15% of the individuals who receive SNAP benefit in the simulation are foreign-born non-citizens from Mexico or Central America. Among those who are eligible to receive SNAP, their SPM unit has resources below 105 30% of the SPM poverty line, 19% have very low resources to need, 29.1% have median resources to need, and 52% have high resources to need. Many families on the low end of the income distribution already receive SNAP. And then EITC simulation. In the EITC simulation, tax calculator simulate the amount of federal EITC individuals are estimated to have received based on their earned income. The rules governing eligibility. Therefore, we compute this quantity by multiplying the amount an individual receives in federal EITC by the state EITC rate in their state of residence is in each year. In the EITC simulation, 23.3% of people receive a state EITC are below the SPM poverty line. Nearly half of people receiving the simulated state EITC have two adults in the home. 19% have one adult and 29.4% have two or more adults. About 32% of simulated state EITC recipients have one child in the SPM unit, 34.8% have two children, and another 33.6% have three or more children. And the last is CTC simulation. As described by New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, New York resident or an individual married to a New York resident with a qualifying child aged 4 until 17 may receive the credit if they meet one of the following criteria. First, they have either a federal child tax credit or a federal additional child tax credit. 2. The federal adjusted gross income was $110,000 or less for individual married filing 20, $75,000 or less for single head of household or qualifying window, $55,000 for married filing separately. In the CTC simulation, only 10.8% of people receiving the CTC are in the poverty. The majority of recipients have two adults in the home, 62.5%, while 13.9% have one adult in the home and 23.6% have three or more adults in the home. 25% of CTC simulation credit recipients have one child in the SPM unit, 40% have two children, and 35.2% have three or more children.
And then there is conclusion of our journal. Out of the four simulations, the largest reduction in child poverty is realized in the state ATC expansion. There would have been 2,699,624 fewer children in ATC simulation. In CTC simulation, there is 816,558 children, and for TNF simulation, there is 985,776 children, and for SNAP simulation, there is 1,340,499 children. Overall, these results suggest that more generous implementation of state ATC has the greatest potential for reduction of child poverty, compared to TNF, SNAP, and state CTC. And then recommendation and suggestion. Recommendation from our group. First, raise employment participation of working families. That means increasing parental employment can thus be expected to lead to a major reduction in child poverty. A basic simulation can serve to illustrate the point. If all parents were to be in paid employment, this would have the poverty rate in families with children from an OECD average of 11% to 5.4%. And if joblessness among single parents were to be eliminated, the poverty rate would be fall from 33% at present to 22%. And the second is policy levers to combat poverty through work. There is several policy levers can be used to meet to promote parental employment in poor and often jobless families. First, ensuring that barriers to employment are removed, including for the most disadvantaged, people whose health status, social problems, or low skill levels keep them away. Second, making work pay for both parents and ensuring the tax or benefit system. Second, Third, helping parents in low-income families improve their skill and access better quality job can also help reduce child poverty. And the third recommendation is social transfer benefit for children. That means social benefits have an important role to play in reducing child poverty. In most OECD countries, per capita social expenditure has increased in recent decades. This growth in spending has coincided with reduction in child poverty, with effect that appear particularly strong when the share of spending on low-income households increases. On average, a 1% increase in per capita social expenditure is associated with roughly a 1% reduction in the relative child poverty rate. And the last recommendation is improve benefit coverage of poor families. That means in most countries, family benefits are granted universally or to a much larger segment of families than to those categories as income poor. In addition, the take-up rate of family benefits among poor families is lower than for well, wealthier families, often because they don't know how to access the benefits. As a result, most countries could reduce child poverty by improving the distribution of family and or housing benefits. And the suggestion from our group is future research should consider the merit of a similar approach in consideration of the other policies. Future research should consider examining the potential administrative and enrollment costs of the simulated policy expansion we explore here. And then there is critique from the journal. There is critique negative. First, we don't model any behavioral, employment, or labor market changes that might result from the receipt of additional benefits. That means, though potential behavioral effects such as labor market participation and effort shouldn't be ignored. There is some evidence that these combined behavioral effects are relatively small. In the case of the ATC, behavioral effects would lead to greater labor force participation, implying that the anti-poverty effects we estimate may be understated. TANF and SNAP are thought to have a negative work incentive. However, under work requirements and the limits, the net effect for TNF should be close to zero. And the second is limitation to our analysis that we don't model the effect of imposing new state taxes that would be required to finance increases in benefits. And the third is our SNAP and TNF simulations exclude undocumented individuals for whom poverty among children may have been more significantly affected. That means these individuals are included in the ATC and CTC simulations at the risk of over-ascertaining the effect of these programs. And the last is, as the focus of this study is on cash and near cash benefits, we don't simulate the effect of scaling up other poverty policies in the present study. That means, as many of these policies confer benefits beyond their monetary value to enrollers. The presumed benefit extends beyond poverty relief into other benefits of health and well-being. And then is critique positive. Our results complement those detailed in a recent publication by the National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine, in which the authors estimated the costs and benefits of reducing child poverty by up to half by leveraging different combinations of state and federal anti-poverty policies. Though the authors similarly find that expanding state ATC and CTC may yield the largest effects. They conclude that the costs to do so are by far the lowest relatively to other proposed expansions. Okay friends, that is presentation from our group. Don't forget to ask and comment in Facebook group. Thank you.